Writing a book, part 6. I am having, mm, gosh, how to even put this into words. Um, I'm having like one of the best seasons of my life these last 3 weeks. And the birth of that, the reason I sound lackluster about it, let me maybe talk about that for just a second. Like the reason I'm not full blown with excitement at this moment is because, like, in a lot of ways, it is the best season of my life. Like the creativity, the fertility of just things flowing out of me these last few weeks, like it has been awe inspiring to get to live like in the driver's seat of this and like the front row getting to witness the unfolding of what has happened these last few weeks has been like truly humbling, like just the blessing of getting to be alive and getting to have a life and like have hands and have eyeballs and sight and thought and ideas and yeah. And the what I'm realizing is through that creativity, I have built up my inner strength. I've built up what I would call my inner safety, because I feel so good, because I'm feeling so lit on fire with my own vitality. Like, I feel so blessed. Like, just this is so good. Like, so good. And what I'm discovering, this is my theory, what I'm discovering is in this like massive wave of inspiration that I'm writing and how that's building up my inner safety. Like, how safe am I with myself? I like myself so much more after these last few weeks. Like, I already was pretty big fan of myself, and now it's even more. Now I'm an even bigger fan of myself than I was 3 weeks ago. And in that newfound respect, newfound admiration, newfound adoration, newfound love, newfound acceptance, newfound unconditional presence. Like I am here with you. I'm saying to myself in this newfound inner safety. What would you expect? What do you think would happen at that point? Like, how do you know it's going well? How do you know it's working? That you're building up inner safety? What are the signs that you're going to see along the way that tell you, like, yep, you built some new inner safety that you did not have before? New pain bubbling up from the depths of inside of you to your surface, and like a bubble popping at the surface, and then the little ripple effects that come off of that pop, the tears that might need to be cried over something that happened long ago, maybe something that you haven't thought about in a long time, maybe something you've already processed many, many, many times as one of the most painful events of your life. And then here comes another layer of it. And that's where the balance comes from in my energy right now. This deeply grounded in the beauty of this physical experience, which says when it's going well, new layers of healing are possible. And that sounds beautiful. That sounds like, oh my gosh, who wouldn't want that? New layers of healing. Zoom out even an inch and see how that process works. Because in my new inner safety, my inner child is now an inch more trusting of me than she was 3 weeks ago. And what she says is, here's what still hurts. That's how you know it's working. when you're able to become conscious of your own pain, you know you've built a little bit more inner safety than you had before. Maybe you're not all the way there. I don't even know if all the way there, if there's even a there. I don't think there is. Because 3 weeks ago, I would have told you, like, I am 100% in love with myself. Like, I'm good. And now, like this morning, I can tell you that, like, what I've processed here this morning as this well of emotion came up out of me in a very specific piece that revealed itself to me, one that I've worked with certain bits of this many, many times, and I've worked with other pieces of it a few times. And this morning, like, all of that clicked together again in either even greater depth. And through the crying and emotional release that I had as I looked at this, and as I felt the pain of the child who lived through these things, and bring my own toolbox to it, as far as, like, inner parent Carly has different abilities than 9-year-old me had at that time, and that I can I can have compassion for her pain, and I can be there for her to say, like, you're right. That wasn't fair. That wasn't ideal. Of course, there would be more ideal experiences that one would want to live. But, where I've come to on my journey at this point, and more so over these last 3 weeks than ever before, is that it all is in the highest good. That, like, everything that unfolds is in the highest order of this becoming, of the highest good of the all, you and everyone else. That, like, for example, one, I think examples just help kind of make it a little bit more real. But, like, the piece that I'm working with is feeling like, as a child, I was parentified, is the word that I haven't worked with it very much. I have worked with my, I would call it, I'm hovering between rage, fury, resentment, hatred at times, that I used to hold for my parents for leaving us alone for long stretches of time, to where, like, my three younger brothers, some of them more helpless than others, they needed help, they needed things, and I was there. I was there. I could hear them crying. I could hear them saying they were hungry. I could hear them, like, being so upset because they puked on themselves on the school bus, and we get home and nobody's there. And they're freaking melting down, red face, tears, everything. I ran a bath. That's what I did. I ran a bath, and I took his clothes off of him and I put him in there. And I took his clothes and I put them in the washing machine. And I'm 8 years old. Like, this was normal. This was, like, almost every day. This was, you come home from school and, like, you're the parent for at least several hours, like 4 or 5 hours, bedtime. It's bedtime and nobody's here. Like, okay, here we go, guys. Like, this feels wrong. This feels weird. And this whole experience came to a head in my 20s, as I was processing through what I felt at the time was, like, the total injustice of, like, feeling like I had my childhood robbed from me, and I'm telling my mom that this is what happened. And she it's, like, burned on my memory, and that's why I've worked with it so many times. This is the moment, this one moment, her saying this to me, is the part that I've worked with, I don't know, hundreds of times, and cried it out probably hundreds of times. When I'm telling her all of this was my experience, her response was to look right at me and very, very clearly inform me that nobody ever asked you to do any of that. That was all. that was all. That was the whole response, was like, so guess you shouldn't have done it. Like, don't do that. That was all she had for me, was, sucks for you. I mean, why did you do that? And in that, like, this is the moment that I've worked with over and over and over again, because as much as I hated her for saying that to me in that moment, and still sometimes still, she's not wrong. She's 100% right. She's accurate. Like, nobody ever asked me to do that. I witness people needing help, meeting their needs, and nobody asked me to help them meet their needs. I took it upon myself to serve and help. And I had a lot of stories about being the oldest, and like I know how to help, so I should. They need help, and whether they've asked for it or not, it's my duty to serve and to jump in and help. I mean, I had that as like basically my whole identity, my whole source of goodness was how helpful I was. And so where I'm standing today, the leading edge, like, yes, I am compassionate totally, maybe not totally. What the fuck do I know? But I'm compassionate towards my inner child who lived through that experience and felt so alone and felt the crushing responsibility of being home alone with three small children. As you know, I'm a small child myself. Like, and all the anxiety that gave me, all the knee-jerk reflex to always take responsibility, to always I realized first, like about a week ago, like I started having this understanding that like it's just inevitable. Like, if I feel a vacuum of leadership, if I feel like nobody's in charge here, I will just put myself in that position. I nominate me, I hold an election, I vote for myself, and all of that happens in a split fucking second, and now I'm in charge. And everybody's usually good with it. Let me just tell you, they're good with it until I inevitably become resentful because why aren't you people making your own decisions? Why aren't you people doing your part? Like, why aren't you contributing? Why am I doing all the work like that? Oh my God. Have you ever had a story that sounds like whenever there's a group project, I always do all the work? This is my life. This is my life. My group project was my family of origin, and I did all the work. I had to do all the chores. I blah, blah, blah. This was my story. And I realized that that is because that was my identity. That was this is how I know if I'm good or not, is when people tell me I helped them, then I know I'm good. And I ran on that hamster wheel for decades of my life. And it's only like now, it's only like layer by layer by layer by layer. Here's another layer of like circling back around to putting all of this together. This, like, I was a parentified child, and like the burden that felt like, but also connecting it back to this very crystal clear moment of her telling me, nobody ever asked you to do that. Nobody ever asked you to do that. You showed up in that way. You volunteered to do that. And now from where I'm standing right now, I'm asking myself the very, very clear question of, did I show up that way because they needed help with their needs, and I surrendered, I sacrificed to subjugate myself to their needs because this is what I've been telling myself the whole freaking time I did it, and for 20 years since then? Or was I actually meeting my own needs by showing up in that way? Was I meeting my need to be helpful? I needed other people to be helped by me. I needed to feel like I was able to be of service. Nobody ever asked me to do that. I needed to feel like I was serving. I feel that. I feel like it wasn't their needs I was showing up for. I was showing up for mine. And the perspective that really opened up this morning, that really gave me the biggest release I've had around this maybe ever, was this like layer of appreciation that I tapped into of, I'm so grateful my dad worked on the road for months at a time, and that left all this extra burden on my mom to take care of all of us. So much so that, like, in terms of trying to keep a hold of her sanity, she left us for long periods of time to fend for ourselves. And she was there every day, right? But there was also a healthy amount of neglect. And I think I chose her for this reason. I think I actually appreciate her for this reason. Something that I've actually hated her for. I've spent so much energy hating her for leaving us alone like that. And this morning, I felt gratitude. I felt grateful that she would be at the capacity that she was at. She would have the limited support from my dad based on the choices he was making. I knew that this was all going to culminate into a situation where I could be of service. I could serve, I could show up, and I could be needed from a very, very, very early age, a very young age. I could show up and serve. And how many of us get that opportunity? How many of us spend 18 to 30 years trying to grow up and like basically meet enough of our own needs that we can help others meet their needs? And I hated her for forcing me to learn how to take care of myself and then have to take care of them. But at the same time, now, like, first time right here, right now, today, I'm seeing that it's why I picked her, so that she would leave me alone with her children. She trusted me. Like, I don't even think she did. Like, I think that's what she was saying. Like, consciously, nobody ever asked me to babysit. It's not like she said, like, all right, 7-year-old Carly, you're in charge of the 6-year-old, the 4-year-old, and the 3-year-old. You're on your own. Good luck. Like, she never said that. And like, when she knew she was going to be gone for long periods of time, she did leave us with a babysitter. I remember on multiple occasions. And then it just kind of stopped being that way, where there was no other person, and it was like 4 or 5 hours at a time. And that amount of responsibility, that amount of, at that point, what I felt like was needing to be of service, it was so interesting how, like, it kind of broke me of this habitual need. Like, it, let me say that better, because it didn't break me of the need, because what I was doing was trying to figure out if I was good or not. And how I knew how to meet that need was, probably from past lifetimes, is what I believe. I had developed a pattern of serving and helping. And when somebody moves from a deficient need to their need is now met, I helped them get there. I know I did a good job. That's how I know I'm good. And so that's how I knew how to meet my need of knowing that I'm a good person, was to be of service. And my early life let me be of massive amounts of service that nobody asked me to do. And I learned this is not efficient. This costs me a lot of energy. This costs me an incredible amount of my own time, my own sanity. It's more responsibility than I care to have. I don't like this. And it was so heavy for my child level capacity that there was a breaking point very, very early on. Like, I mean, my mom took me to the doctor and they put me on antidepressants at 15 years old because I was having like basically a nervous breakdown from all the responsibility that I had put on my shoulders. I was taking college classes, I was working a part-time job, I was running cross country, I was like on and on and on, driving my brothers to all of their sports. And these are my responsibilities. And the doctor, I remember this clear as day, and I haven't thought about this maybe since then, but it's like, I'm sitting in the doctor's office and he looks at me like he's so confused. He's like, why don't you just give something up? Why don't you just do less? And that's when I really lost it. Like, I can't. I have to. I have to run cross country. I have to work. I have to take these college classes. I have to, I had so much responsibility piled on my tiny 15-year-old shoulders that I was giving myself a nervous breakdown. And it wasn't the last one that I had. I don't know if it necessarily qualifies clinically as a nervous breakdown, but functioning ceased. I almost failed out of college in my senior year because of the next one. I almost lost my job thanks to my supervisor. I did not. She gave me a paid extra 2-week vacation to go pull my shit back together. So thankfully she was cool. But over and over and over, I had to learn the lesson. And I started studying this very early on with how my childhood was, that there are more efficient ways in this world to know that you are good, that there are more ways to meet that need than having to be sacrificial of yourself. That the only reason you exist is to show up in service of others. You're more than that, and you deserve more than that. And there is a part of me that still loves to serve. It's why I give so much of myself away for free, because it does serve. It serves me, and I hear often that there's other people who find it helpful. And so there's so much of me that does want to be of service. And I think that's why for so long, maybe many lifetimes, I used service as the way to meet this need of knowing that I'm good. But over the years, and then in these last 3 weeks, I have found other ways to know that I am good. It takes the dependence off of needing to be of service in order to know that I am good. I know that I'm good. I feel so vital that my goodness is undeniable. And in that inner safety, in that knowing of my own goodness, my inner child is safe to say, can you look at this, because this still hurts. It still hurts my feelings that mom put us in that situation and then yelled at us about nobody ever asked you to do that. That still hurts. Can we look at this again? I know you've already looked at it with me 37,000 times, but can we please look at it again, because it still hurts? She told me that this morning and we cried it out together, because you're right, that does hurt. You're right. Gosh, yeah. I forget how painful that really was. You're right. You're right. And look at all of this. Look at all of this. Take a tour with me through our garden of goodness that we cultivate inside of ourselves, that has nothing to do with anybody. That has nothing to do with anybody knowing that we're good. That we're good. Look at how powerfully we know our own goodness. And so after she was done crying it out, we walked through our garden of goodness, and she feels a lot better. And I fully trust that that may not be the last time that we have to look at that one again, because it was incredibly painful, and I still carry some of that. I'm sure you heard some of it in what I was sharing about some of the injustices that we have to live through. Just because we heal another piece of it and another piece of it and another piece of it, the injustice may still be there. Acceptance doesn't mean that the injustice goes away. Unconditional love doesn't mean that the injustice goes away. It means we figure out how to love ourselves even though we lived through something that was unjust. We take back our power by looking for bite-sized ways to accept responsibility for what happened. Even when we were children, we didn't know any better. It was innocent. We guessed and we tried and we did what we thought. Our 8-year-old brain made a calculation and we took a chance, and maybe it wasn't the right thing, but that's okay. That's so normal. Our innocence doesn't know. That's the whole point of being innocent, is that we don't know. We don't know. And we do our best. And then we see how things work out. And sometimes we learn a better way. Sometimes we have to do things the old way for years and years and decades, and then we learn a different way. And when we know better, we can do better. But until then, we're just innocent. Until then, we're just meeting our needs in the only way that we know how. And faulting ourselves for that feels like, berating a baby for not being able to walk. They just haven't learned yet. They will. Give them time and encouragement and space to figure it out, and we will always be able to learn. So much of all of this that just came out, 25 minutes worth, the reason that I put this in this series of writing a book is because I'm still not ready to share any more than I already just did, but so much of everything that just came out, especially these last 5 to 10 minutes, are pieces of the second book that I'm writing, that is now much longer than The Art of Truth Telling, the first ebook that I quote unquote finished. I have not released it yet. I will, I'm sure, in its time. My focus and my energy and my processing has been directed to the second book, and it has very, very quickly come along and surpassed the amount of material that I put in the first one. And so much of what's in this second one is, oh God, it's so beautiful around this cultivating this inner safety, this being able to see yourself as good, even when life around you may not be reflecting that to you. And so much of like what has opened up for me is taking all of these different pieces of basically of being human and reframing it into this lens of innocence and how natural innocence is, how natural our humanity is. We're humans. It's natural. Humanity is natural. But then we try to train ourselves out of things like being afraid or judging other people or creating enemies, othering other people. Like these things are innocent. These things are innocent behavior of a limited capacity of knowing how to meet your needs, of having something inside of you that's going on, something coming up inside of your inner system, and there's a need that's present, and we now need to meet this need, and here's how I know how. And there is nothing wrong with being in that situation. I would say we all have been. We all will continue to be. We all are innocent. And I don't think especially after these last couple weeks of processing, like I personally don't think we ever lose our innocence. It's more a matter of how much do we allow it versus how much do we fight against it? How much do we make ourselves bad for having innocence, for having fear or judgment or perfectionism or people-pleasing tendencies? Like these things are innocent. They're us doing our best with what we know how to do. They're us meeting our needs to stay safe in this world, which is an innocent need. It's primal, it's basic, it never goes away. Our survival instinct will want to keep us safe for the rest of our lives. So these innocent behaviors, I don't think they go away. I think it's more a matter of building a relationship with them where you allow and accept and respect that, like, okay, I'm judging another person. I see that that's happening. I'm not going to stop judging people. I'm not going to try to make myself stop judging people. That would be wanting myself to do something I wasn't capable of doing. That would be wanting the innocence to come out of me, and that's just never going to happen. So instead, let me update my relationship with judging other people. Let me learn a different way to respond. When I notice myself judging, that doesn't have to be the end of it. Noticing the judgment can be the beginning of whatever response I learn. And that's what's in this second book, is reworking our relationship with innocence to a way where hopefully it's more allowable. And like, again, I don't know if either of these books, The Art of Truth Telling or this second one, are helpful to others, but the story that I just told, and like the connection and the new levels of inner safety, the new levels of feeling like my pain, my darkly, deeply held pain, where it's sometimes even not visible to me, where that pain can come up and be witnessed in a safe space, like, is the direct result of me writing these two books. And so that is why I write. That's why I haven't even like really worked on putting out the first one. I've been so consumed with working on the second one because I'm writing for me. I'm writing these books for my own emotional healing journey. That's what they're for. And then someday, in their own time, should they see the light of day, should other people choose to interact with them, those people will have their own relationship with these words, and they'll, that will be none of my business. Right now, this is my business, being inside this process of working with these ideas and implementing them inside my own inner world and watching what unfolds, and then writing about it and then like writing the next little bit. And I already, like, again, as I go, I have so many ideas, and I think I have like, I think I can see what the next one is. And when that happened between the first two, like when I got the whiff of the second book, that really was kind of the end of the momentum of the first one. I've added like little pieces here and there to the first one since I started working on the second one, but as soon as I caught the wind of the second one, I poured that one out. And so then this morning I caught the wind of this next one. I'm like, it all boils back down into this one piece. So let's write a book about this piece. Yeah, let's dig into that one piece. Let's really make friends with it. Let's understand it. Let's have a relationship where we love this thing instead of hiding or running or whatever. So again, it's not about bossing around other people. Like, it's not about writing a book so that people will change their lives. It's writing a book so I can change my life. It's writing, and that's where, again, I go back to, like, I was sharing in the working with inspiration video here recently about how, I'll link it in the description because it has some good questions as far as like, if you're feeling blocked, if you're feeling like I don't know what to write about, it's like, who do you think it's even for? Because if you don't know what to write about, then you're kind of setting your sights too far out in front. Like, you're writing about what you're experiencing right now. So if you don't know what to write about what it's not like to not know what to write about. Let me say that again. If you don't know what to write about, then write about what it's like to not know what to write about. If you are feeling blocked, write about what it's like to feel blocked. What does that bring up in you? What's the shape of the block? What's the color of the block? What's the smell of the block? What's the sound of the block? What's the, like, tell me about the block. Let's study the block and watch it dissolve in front of our eyes. That's like, I told this story in the, I think it was the working with inspiration video as well, where like the second book was what came. Like, that was the original inspiration, was to write the second book. And I was like, nope, can't do, too risky. I could never say any of this. And so then the idea for the first book came, The Art of Truth Telling. How do you say things out loud that are true? What even is true? What does that even mean? So the art of truth telling was born. And on the tailwinds of the art of truth telling, I felt ready to write the second book, which was the first original inspiration. And so now here I am, kind of like on the tailwinds of this second book, and like, here's the next one. And all they are the pieces of my own inner journey. That's all this is. And I'm not saying everybody's writing process is like this. I mean, everybody is going to have 100% unique process, but I would love to know, I would love to hear from you down below. What does this bring up in you? What does this stir? What does this encourage? What curiosity does this spark? And maybe, you know what? I'd be willing to make this trade. Maybe instead of writing it to me in a comment down below, open a Word document and write it in there instead. And watch that become maybe the first book you've ever written.